I've never seen somebody bite into a lollipop more aggressively in my entire life.
Really? Have you met Jay?
I was just going to say, I have seen Jay do that, maybe more aggressively, yeah.
It's in my own notes. I was like, finally, someone else who does that.
Yeah, but like, it comes on a stick.
So what? So does a corn dog. Do you lick it?
No, but like...
What the fuck?
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Tires. Tires has 6 episodes with 1 season so far on Netflix. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called The Initiative, originally airing May 23rd, 2024. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me as always, the boys, Joe, Ferg, Nick, and Gordo. What's going on, guys?
Hey-o.
Oh no, the wops.
Wow, even before I said anything, Joe. Thanks.
I think everybody here is, we went through this when I said stupid wop dago on a podcast that one time. We all had to be, and everyone had to be like, we're all Italian, it's okay.
Man, if we were monetized, we'd be demonetized. But we don't make any money, so it's fine.
It's their last names. It's okay.
Is it their last name?
I don't think so. I think...
No, their last name was on their shirt. It was like...
the dealership.
Like Adonis or whatever.
Oh, it's like, yeah, those are Fetty Wap's brothers. Yeah, okay. But no, Tires. Today, full disclosure to anyone listening, the day we're recording this episode is the day the episode first debuted. So we wanted to kind of rush to get this one out. We did that before with That 90s Show a while ago, so unfortunately, Netflix releases shows on Thursdays, so because we release our show on Thursday, the absolute fastest we can have something come out is 1 week after it originally releases, but still pretty timely, so I think we're going to be one of the first ones to maybe do a little deep dive review of an episode, so.
These are still tough to do, though. Having to get a whole episode watched, notes taken, everything together and recorded the day it comes out is a struggle.
You can't do too much prep work. But we got it done, so we're here now. We can skip most of the generic questions. Has anyone seen this show before? No, it came out today.
Well, there was an iteration of this before.
There was a trailer on YouTube. I don't know if any of you guys had seen the original kind of pilot trailer that originally was on YouTube that kind of led to the show happening.
Yeah, I did. I saw bits and pieces of it.
It's one of those things where I want to watch it. It's like in my saved thing for later, but I didn't want to watch it before the episode. I felt like with a show like this that's brand new, I just want to sort of keep my sights on the proper episode, if that makes sense.
It's funny. I didn't realize when this show got announced, I didn't realize the show was already basically done and ready. It was like by the time they put the official release, like, oh, Shane Gillis has his show Tires is getting picked up by Netflix. It was like out. I don't know. When did this get announced originally? Like a few months back? I feel like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I don't think it was long.
Did they produce it themselves and then shop it? I couldn't find info about
I think that's what happened. I think he's self-funded.
I mean, you can tell by the production.
And smart for Netflix, too. Well, you can also tell, too, like, I don't think it's a bad thing, but, like, everybody in this show is part of the same orbit, right? So, like, you get all your friends together to be in it. It's a lot easier than, like, farming out. I'm sure we'll see, because they already did announce a second season. I imagine there will be maybe more bells and whistles for that.
I was very surprised. I know Shane Gillis is exploding right now, but the fact that they announced season 2 before the episode came out, I thought was kind of crazy.
Especially with their track record for shows.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though. 2 things I'd like to point out. Usually when we do a Netflix show original, it's usually complete garbage, and we almost always just make fun of it and cancel it. And it's almost always like 29 minutes long. This show was not a Netflix show. This was a pickup from Netflix. It's only 22 minutes long, thank Satan, because of our notes. And it got picked up. So I think that's a lesson to Netflix, maybe to, like, tell people to farm some stuff out.
Stop making shows,
Yeah, just buy things that are already good.
Work better on distributing. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. It's a good model, right? If you see things that people are doing. I mean, Louis C.K. started doing this, 10 or 15 years ago, just funding everything himself and then either licensing it or putting it out himself. And I think the model works.
I think it was like Netflix looked like what a lot of the other sitcoms that we covered in the past. We're kind of going through like the the factory. Like a lot of the 3-camera ones, especially, were all like, they looked and felt the same, like everything about it. And they were just trying to pump them out. And they thought that, yes, sitcoms can be formulaic, but you can't mail it in. And they were mailing it in on a lot of those. And it was obvious. And that's why so many of them were one and done.
You know, it didn't feel like a cookie cutter Netflix 90s show was that 90s show. That's the only one that they did that I don't think was cookie cutter.
Was that Netflix?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was Netflix. Yeah.
That was definitely cookie cutter.
I think, well, not the way the other shows are. That you wouldn't put that next to a big show or something like that.
I think if you really look at them, I think there are elements that you could see the Netflix on it, but they also had framework of something directly to rip from because they wanted to pull right from that 70s show. So that obviously.
Yeah, they're trying to ape a different show, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are letting your nostalgia cloud your minds.
But anyways, with this show, Shane Gillis and John McKeever were the creators of this show. They've collaborated kind of historically throughout their careers together. Gillian Keeves, I don't know if you guys probably did. I don't know if you watched Gillian Keeves properly, which is like their sketch comedy stuff they put out, but
no.
That's what like everybody in this show was all on, right?
Yes, they were all on that. And then, but also once Shane Gillis blew up, like especially when Netflix put out his stand-up special, Beautiful Dogs, you started seeing Shane Gillis clips pop up constantly on Instagram and stuff. And a lot of the sketch ones were from Gillian Keeves, like just people hadn't really saw them yet.
I don't like any of those.
No, like the one when he was like on the airplane and they think it's going down. So he starts like calling the fucking car lot and telling them to fuck off and shit like that.
No.
You see that one?
I don't think I've seen any of those, honestly.
No, I've seen a couple.
That one's hilarious, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the ones I've seen. I just don't like.
Because remember, like Shane Gillis, before the whole thing with him happened where he got canceled from his podcast, Matt and Shane's Secret podcast, like he was supposed to go to SNL. Like he has foundation in sketch comedy. That was like the initial goal.
And now his podcast that he has now is like the most subscribed to Patreon podcast.
Yeah, the highest. Yeah. So you can only imagine, knowing some of the big names that are on Patreon, like they must pull in insane money to be the number one.
I sometimes will look, because I follow a few different podcasts on Patreon. Sometimes I'll just go to their page and see how many subscribers there are. Some of the ones, I mean, if you're $5 a month, you've got 100,000. It's like, wow, the amount of money that makes you pull in. It's good for them.
No, just saying.
Yeah, we're as big as them.
Yeah.
We'll pull in $5s of dollars.
But I will say, until then, we do have a merch site, so you can check that out at S1E1pod.com. We have a few t-shirts available. Then you can also do like stickers and all that shit too off that site. So that stuff helps. So feel free to go on there and grab something. But yeah, no, I mean, there's not much we can really talk about to lead into the show. I want to just kind of get into it, and then anything else will follow. So the show starts with Will played by Steve Gerben, who, again, if you saw Gillian Keeves and stuff like that, he's done a lot of work with these guys in the past.
Did anybody get the feeling of Will's character right away that he's very much Ron from Party Down? This whole episode, I was just expecting him to go, no.
Yeah, that's a really good line to draw there. I didn't think of it at the time.
He's a little more neurotic. I feel like Ron's a little more confident.
False confidence, but like, I guess Will is not very confident at all.
No, the show starts with, it's him leaving his dad a voicemail. So the way it works is Will's character runs this branch of like a tire shop, and his dad must own multiple locations, but he's like the branch manager for this particular one. And he's leaving him a voicemail, basically explaining a situation where he accidentally ordered just a fuck ton of tires. And you see the cutaways as he's leaving the message of them just dragging in like tire after tire after tire, stacks everywhere. He made a huge error, but he got like a nice deal because he bought in high bulk.
Now, we'd assume that he just added an extra 0 when ordering. Like, that'd be my guess. Like,
I think later they said it was like 500 tires.
Yeah, it's a lot of tires.
tires?
I will tell you, I worked at a Pep Boys, and tire day was the worst day of all days because literally everybody just had to unload an 18-wheeler full of tires. And it was just like assembly line, like someone's on the truck, someone's at the bottoms, someone rolls them, someone stacks them. It's fucking miserable. And then you got to go through, once they're off the truck and stacked, you got to go and put them on the racks. It sucks. So to have ordered too many of them would have been even worse.
Was the show accurate? Did they stink? And did you smell like rubber all the time?
That line did stick out. It is a very, very strong smell, yeah. This is weird, actually, because I was just in another situation that was very similar to this show. I had to get an oil change. I had noticed I was too far past it. I was like, fuck. So I went and I just found a Monroe, which is kind of like this store in the show. It's like a chain style, like oil change tire shop. And so I go in there and I'm getting my oil. I want to get my oil changed. I go in and this guy is like inundated and he's like not supposed to be in charge, but is in charge. And it's his birthday, apparently. He's like, I'm here for another hour. It's my birthday. And then I'm leaving. I was like, okay, dude, I didn't ask for any of this, but here we are. So then he goes, I can't wait to retire. I got a Navy benefits coming in. I'm going to go to Dubai. I'm like, whoa, dude, you're going to retire in Dubai? He's like, yeah, can get a cheap house for like $700,000 on the beach. I'm like, that's not cheap. You go to Florida for that much money. But he would go out and start working on my car and then come back in to tell me something new about Dubai. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then he'd go out and he did that 3 times, maybe 4. And I'm like, you'd have been, and he's weeded. Like there are cars waiting and everything. And he just stops to come tell me about Dubai every time.
He was just burning through that last hour, man. He just wanted to talk to you about Dubai and get the fuck out of there.
He wanted to enjoy his birthday, man.
I mean, I got the oil change. It was a reasonable price. I mean, he was a nice guy, but it was just really weird.
That's all right. I recently had my tires changed. I actually had to get a tire changed off of my car. And I took my car in and the guy's stressed out. Like it's similar thing, like end of the day, dude's like fucking sweating, angry at life. He goes in the back, gives me my keys. I go out to my car and I find out that they changed the wrong tire. So I came back in and I looked at this poor guy and I'm like, dude, it was the wrong tire. And he's like, that's it. And he opens up the back door and he goes, you fucking idiot. You did it again.
The again is what really makes that.
And I could not stop laughing. And he's like, with all due respect, sir, this is not funny. And then goes and grabs my car. And he goes, I need you to stop what the fuck you're doing and do this tire again. And they got it done, but it was just comical. The guy's
Good
like,
thing that guy
quit.
didn't become a doctor.
Yeah, I know, right?
I got a tire changed in our car like 3 or 4 months ago, and it was the easiest, quickest, painless. Everyone was really nice. We talked about Cheap Trick for 10 minutes with the guy. I had the most pleasant experience on like YouTube. So, although Nick sounds more fun than Gordo's.
No, mine was awful.
So also in the conversation, he's trying to tell his dad how, you know, he has all these great ideas and all these marketing things, and they've been doing a lot of team building. And you see like the cutaway of him and like the few people that work in the shop, like on the back office together. And that's the first time I think you see Shane Gillis in the show. And it's just him going, you know, no offense, your idea fucking sucks. You know, he's like, not the most respected of the bosses, but,
I will say one thing this show did for me, and this montage scene really hammered it home, is I work from home, right? Like I don't want to ever not work from home ever again, but I miss the sort of weird camaraderie of just a bunch of people you work with all day they're just like shooting the shit and being mad that you're at work. And I had a lot of jobs like this. I like unloaded trucks for a bunch of jobs. Like that was the thing that got you through it, was people just being shitty to each other, but somehow it makes the day go by.
I couldn't work. It's funny, like you never want to work outside of a like remote job again. I never want a remote job because I like the camaraderie of being around a lot of people. I think it's a nice break from the day.
Yeah, fuck that. I'd rather just sit here.
I can't. I have no desire to just be in like one room in solitude all day long, and then you're done with work, and then you're still just in that same room. I can't do it. Like it's never been something that I've wanted.
You leave the room. That's what I typically do at 5. I get up and I leave this room, and I usually, come back again at 9. I
don't know. It feels too much like prison. Like it's just like this. You're just confined in one area all day long.
Yeah, but you gotta like. That's also, I can also go wherever I want for lunch. If I have a lull in the day, I can do whatever I want. I can accomplish tasks that you can't do because you're at work. I can take care of laundry. I can, hop in the shower. I can do all
Squeeze
this
one
random
out.
shit. Yeah, like it's just I think the benefits outweigh that. I mean, because it does get monotonous and it can kind of weigh on you. But I mean, I think
there's something about social interaction. Like I can't go without that for
talking
that type of not talk, just being around people. I just think that's not the type of existence that I desire.
Don't knock it till you try it. That's all I gotta say to you, because I felt the same way until I started doing it, and then I was like,
you were
this
never
is the greatest
sociable
thing.
though. Like obviously,
that's not true. He is sociable. He just doesn't go out anymore.
Joe is always a bit of an introvert outside of that still.
Sure, but when I worked with people, we'd go for drinks after work and stuff, and I'd go get food with people. Like, I'd always be out doing stuff with people at work, but and also, you make it sound like a prison, I get that, but you just create a good room around you, right? Get all your stuff around you, things you want, you listen to music. It's not like you're confined to like a room with no windows.
Sure, and it's just, different things for different people, because like, I'm someone who, I mean, you guys know, like when it's my days off, like I don't like to sit around at home all day. Like I like to just leave the house, even if I don't have anything specific to do. So like, that's just how I am.
I never want to leave. Let me work from home one day. They let me work from home one day over the winter. And it was glorious. I got to sit in my underwear.
I'm not convinced that you're not sitting in your underwear currently.
I'm in like swoosh shorts, so it's kind of like that.
He's got croc undies on. They just got little holes.
Oh,
in them.
crundies.
Crundies. I get the good nut gibbets too.
I just picture him. Oh man, the truck nuts hanging off his crundies.
I just picture him standing up and he's just got like those foam underwear with holes all in them. Looking like a big type.
I also like during the scene when he's kind of talking about all the stuff he's doing, and we talked about like the ideas he has. Like you see that cutaway of him hanging up like that "We Got You Girl" poster, which is like his whole, we'll hear about it throughout the episode, but the women's initiative to get more girls to go to the tire shop, which is, I mean, the premise is like, I guess like at root, I can understand the idea of like, we want to make like a place that women feel comfortable going to. This is an industry where that doesn't often happen.
I do like that the idea was to put like a Rosie the Riveter type character on it too, but like all women identify with Rosie the Riveter. Like it's so specific and funny.
I did like the idea of this phone call in general. I thought it was like a clever device to kind of introduce you to the whole shop and what's going on. Meanwhile, he's half explaining what you're seeing because he's on the phone. So I thought it was a kind of a good way to intro the whole situation.
Yeah, without having a narrator, it was really good.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a workplace comedy, so you need to see everybody in the workplace. And at 22 minutes to get everybody in quick in a montage, I think is economical.
Yeah, I just thought it was clever. And then like also this staff is very small. So like from what we see, at least in this episode, the physical shop itself only has 4 people that work there. So it's easy to not, we see other characters in the episode, but we're not being overwhelmed with too much.
Agreed.
You know why that is? Because kids don't want to work anymore. They're trying to hire people. No one will go.
That is the problem these days. That's a whole long conversation for another day, but I will say in short, I think it's weird that pre-pandemic, like the unemployment rate was a certain level, and then say what you will, there's no way you save that much of your pandemic money to the point where we went from having like a high unemployment rate to like every place on earth is like desperately trying to staff people. Like there's not that, like the shift is too extreme.
It really has knocked us back into like almost like a 1950s mentality where like stuff is now closed on Sunday, or like I used to get coffee on the way home from work at like 10 p.m. and now like every coffee shop is closed at 7. It's just a weird, I don't know if we'll ever get back to it.
Good. Nice for a change.
Is it?
In other countries that I visited, shit closes down at 6 p.m.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, that's great if you never have to run errands.
Quick side note, in Austria, almost everything closes down, but they have like vending machines for almost anything you can think of. So you could still get whatever you want, and there's still restaurants and stuff open. But the physical shops, like, you should be at home with your family. Not a bad idea.
I appreciate it in theory. I just don't think it's completely practical.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Who wants to spend time with their family?
Not me.
The bit at the end of this phone call is that he ends up not liking the long message that he made, and goes to redo it. But then when he goes to redo it, fucks up and uses some extreme profanities and then accidentally sends that one instead. I thought it was a nice little button up to the scene.
I think even though you hear Shane swear at the beginning of this montage, I think for him to end on what he says here gives you a very good path of like what the comedy style of the show is going to be. And I think it's either good or bad, right? Because some people might see that and be like, I don't want to watch a show where somebody drops a hard C. And I laughed like a child when he said it. And I was like, okay, well, buckle up.
And that kind of rolls right into like the title screen. This is a no intro show.
Ooh.
I can understand why it has no intro, but I never know how I feel about it sometimes.
I mean, that might change, right? This is self-funded, right? Hard to like get someone to write a song like, we got tires, we're driving. Like, I'm actually going to write this song for them and see if they'll use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. We've said it before, like these newer style shows, it's become so common now that I guess the more shows we cover, and it surprises me less and less now because it is a more common trait in the modern shows.
Yeah, it's because the songwriters don't want to work on Sundays.
I tried to write a song, but it was after 6 and they wouldn't let me.
So now in the new scene, we see Cal and Shane and they're talking with like Will in the shop area. And we find out that Will hired a reporter to come by and like do like a little like fluff piece on the shop and talk about the women's initiative. And you get Shane, who's we find out later that Shane and Will are cousins, but Shane's just busting Will's balls all the time. And every time Will's trying to talk about the stuff that he wants to do for women, Shane's just kind of going back at him and sexualizing a lot of the sentences and shooting them back at him. And he's like, I can talk to women fine. And he's like, kind of wants to do like that role play with him, which I thought was really funny, where Will pretends to be the female customer. And he's like, let's get you some lobsters and shrimp.
This is the scene specifically where I feel like this feels like Party Down.
This is when I felt like, just being a fan of Shane Gillis and listening to his podcast and like knowing him that way, like I felt like I was getting his personality in it a little bit more, like as the scene went on, not so much at first. But then when he starts talking about, like, when Will says, oh, don't talk to me like that, I have a boyfriend. And he's like, you got a boyfriend? He's making you bring your car in here? Sounds like it's a little shaky. Like, when he starts getting into all that stuff, like, I felt like I was starting to see his personality come through in the character.
It also totally deflates Will, who you get, I think, a different view of what his character is going to be. And then at this point, like, where he's almost laughing at it and just has to go away, it kind of gives you get an idea of their relationship and what's going to happen. And that just gets more and more through the episode.
It happens a lot, yeah, because at the end of the day, they are cousins and they are friends. So as much as Will's trying very hard to be the boss and run this place, he's not as straight-laced as he portrays himself at all times. Because of the way that dialogue's going, Will's now extra nervous about the situation with the reporter coming. He wants Shane nowhere near him when he arrives, but he's like trying to talk to himself. It's like, there's the whole, it's going to be a good day. Shane's like, well, I hope it's not a bad day. What do you think the worst day is? And he's like, the worst day? It's like, I don't know, probably the day that like the Jews were, and he's like, whoa, what the fuck, man? He's like, I was talking more like Mondays, like, like Garfield and shit.
This was like the first laugh I got out of the episode.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought that's the one that really told you the tone of the show.
You know it's going to go one way, either 9/11 or something Holocaust, and they went Holocaust.
And they also went Garfield in his Mondays.
Oh, the Mondays, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, I will say, when I watched this, I texted you guys and I was like, there is one joke in here that's making me know that Gordo's going to greenlight it. It was not this, though.
It wasn't this one. No, I thought...
Yeah, we all know what joke it is.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But when that got brought up, because you had said something in a group text earlier, I was like, oh, that? I was like, I guess. But then later on, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. No, but you know what makes Mondays better? Lasagna.
So why don't you ever eat lasagna on Mondays?
I do. I eat lasagna every Monday. It's world famous. People all over the world listen to our podcast, and they are
people
aware.
all over the world eat lasagna, but it doesn't mean your lasagna day is world famous.
Guys, there's all those photos that Gordo sends us every Monday of him holding today's newspaper with a lasagna in his hands. He does it every week. I don't know what you're talking about.
I would at this point, I almost want to just, I don't know how much a lie detector test costs, but I want to know, not just obviously we know he doesn't eat lasagna every Monday, but I want to know have you had lasagna in 2024? Like, have you had it twice in 2024?
Maury Povich lives in Connecticut, which is not that far of a drive for us. Can we maybe crowdsource it so that we can have Maury Povich say, you said you eat
Bring out the
lasagna every
olives.
Monday? That is also a lie.
Isn't he dead?
No. Don't you push that on Maury Povich.
He's Jerry Springer's recently passed.
How do you mix up Maury and Jerry?
I mean, to
I
be
thought
fair.
he died.
But he is 85, which is older than I would have thought.
I mean, A Current Affair was almost 40 years ago.
Now, you know what you're mixing up, though? They made a really big deal when it show finally got canceled, which was in the last, 10 years. I think you're thinking of that. It was, everywhere.
Oh, maybe.
Last episode of Maury coming up and stuff like that.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, I will gladly take a lie detector test.
Well, we'll look into it. And if we ever get that done, we will certainly make sure it's recorded and posted. We cut to later in the day, and now we see Shane, and he's dealing with a female customer in real time now, not just this pantomime with Will. And he's like, oh, you're all set. Thanks for shopping here. He's like, hope you felt really comfortable the entire time, and we love you. And Will's like, that was bad. Don't do that.
So at this point, you don't know the family dynamic, and I'm sitting there getting mad. I'm like, why are they keeping this guy around who's working there and being an asshole to customers?
Yeah, without knowing that they're cousins yet, it is tough to understand how a guy like this can keep his job. But we do see at the very least that Will's a bit of a pushover. So I can see how, even if that wasn't the case, it would probably take a lot for him to actually get rid of him.
I think it's relatable too, though, because we've all had jobs where these character people work there, and you're like, how does this person stay employed here? Everyone has that person at a job,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you see it and you're like, oh, that's Greg,
When Shane starts doing the oh, that wasn't good. What if I do this next time? And he makes that really creepy serial killer face. He's like, we want to make women really comfortable and good and safe with us.
That killed me.
You know what I like about their relationship is that Will isn't I feel like in most of these type scenarios, Will will always be annoyed by Shane's character, right? That's just how they'll never they'll always be butting heads, but Will also finds him funny.
Yeah, he laughs right when he says that.
Yeah. So I like that dynamic. It's a little different than the norm, I think.
He even tries to spin it. He's like, that was a really good serial killer thing. I just don't know if the reporter's going to like that kind of a joke.
Yeah.
This is where we get the two best characters of the entire episode coming in.
Yes, this is right when we start hearing from outside. We hear voices, and it turns out it's the Wops, as they refer to them at all times. As an Italian man, I don't think any Italian person gets offended by any Italian negative slang word, but...
Well, yeah, I think there's another comedian who does that joke. They're like, it might be Shane Gillis. I can't remember who does the joke. They were like, every white, racial slur, nobody gets mad at it.
Yeah, no one gives a shit.
Yeah, there's nothing that's actually that offensive if you're...
Because even when you first hear it, though, your ear goes, ooh, but then you go, wait, no, I'm a Wop. I don't care.
It doesn't affect you.
It's been established that I thought that it was their last name, and I thought that was the joke, so...
I mean, to be fair, that is a good joke.
And on top of it, if we're stacking the kind of humor that the show's using, when we cut over to those two guys, they're talking about some lesbian girl or someone who has she works in a lesbianic manner or something and has lesbian tendencies or something of that nature. You don't hear the whole conversation, but again, it's just the show's, I don't want to say it's going overboard pushing boundaries, but it's setting the tone pretty early.
So this is when I messaged you all and said that this show's trying too hard to be edgy. It's that after a bunch of other stuff, and I'm just started to roll my eyes. And I thought it was funny. I think that stuff's funny. I just don't know if it works out as a TV show.
I can see how you could perceive it that way. I would say for me, and I guess that's the interesting thing, I guess, depending on what level of knowledge we have of all these comedians, but being aware of the kind of comedy that these specific comedians do, it feels very on brand with them, and their fan bases would be very knowledgeable towards that. So it doesn't flag me as weird for them to be talking this way.
I will say with these guys, though, knowing that a lot of these guys come from a sketch background, the Wop brothers, feel like the most this could be a recurring sketch type of thing that could exist outside of
Sure.
this show.
Like spin-off, you mean?
Or not even that, like this could be something even like not obviously not like SNL, but like if they'd even tone this down a little bit or something, like you could see this as being something they bring out every 10 episodes on SNL because people like it. They put it in like a different situation or something.
Where do you guys sit with what Ferg said as far as like the like forcing it? Because last week we did Bruise Brothers, which was another Netflix show, and we talked constantly about how a lot of those jokes were super forced. But I felt like they were all out of context. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were saying things just for the sake of saying them, and they didn't even fit into what was going on. Where here it seems like, you know, even like with these guys, the things they're talking about are very on brand with what we see their personality types to be.
I think if you know them, it's not too much. If you don't know them and you're just kind of walking in and this is your first introduction, I could see you being turned off a little bit by it.
Yeah, but I know them.
Here's my thing. I sort of agree with Ferg, but I feel like they're forcing Shane Gillis too much. So if you've seen the other iteration of this, that pilot that was on YouTube or whatever, it's more of an ensemble. Like the other mechanic doesn't get more than, I think, 10 words in this. But in that original thing, it's all of them, you know, but now it's just Shane's dialogue. And I get why they did it, or, you know, right? Because, like, he's the spearhead for the show. And he's the one who's red hot right now. So, yeah, that's what you want to do. But I did feel like it's too much of him, and it doesn't really need to be. Like, this show can be funny around him and with and because of him, but it doesn't need to be as much of him.
You know, it's funny. I got a different vibe than you did in that regard, because now I'll say out of the 4 employees, 2 of them basically don't talk for most of the episode. But watching this, I thought it was going to be more focused on Shane Gillis than it was, because the story's really all centered around Will and his character. Like, he's the real main character of the show, which I didn't think going into it. I thought it was going to be Shane was going to be kind of the focal point, but he's more the strong too.
The reporter is basically the guest star of the episode, and he gets a ton of time for somebody who's not going to be, I mean, we assume is not going to be a recurring character.
And that was another weird thing. We're not there yet, but the reporter, like, Will doesn't want him to talk to Shane, doesn't want the reporter to talk to Shane, right? And then the reporter's like, oh, I want to talk to one of the mechanics, and it's Shane. It's like, well, just get the other guy. Like,
another mechanic there.
Think of the same thing. The other guy who's completely normal.
Right.
But we'll get into that in a moment. But when we see like the Wops walk in,
it just makes me smile saying hearing you say
they get flagged to go sit, you know, Will's down, like, go to the back. We cut to the like back room, and it's the 2 of them and Shane sitting there, and then Will meets up, and they're all sitting there and talking, and it's, oh, you got a reporter? That's super cool, dude. Like, is she hot? It's actually a guy. Oh shit, so it's serious. Congrats.
I mean, we were talking about things being forced. I feel like this is one of those shows I think some people aren't going to like because it is so, like, I don't know if you want to call it offensive. I don't find it offensive, but it would be offensive to some people. But I honestly feel like it's not forced when you walk in and like the third line is somebody yelling fucking cunt. I feel like you just know right away, and I still think that's a very smart way to open it.
Yeah.
And then you're not bothered by any of this. You kind of go into it being like, this show is going to be nuts.
Yeah, if this isn't for you, you would have known that really early, and you should really just shut it off if it isn't.
I think every one of these jokes is fine in isolation, like they're funny. Like, I laugh at every one of the jokes. It's just when they're rapid fire one after another, and I think it's too much.
I will say this is a very, very dialogue heavy.
Oh yeah, very dialogue heavy.
It's got like hints of like Letterkenny flow to them, sort of.
Yeah, I think Letterkenny is a good comparison point, because it's, you know, a very simple day in the life of these characters, and they're just rapid fire telling jokes.
I think it's also one of those situations too with some of these characters where a lot of these jokes are offensive and stuff, but they're not characters that are being made to look like they're cookie cutter, like, great people. Like, you know, they're showing you all their flaws. So it's not like, I think that always is important, that when you give them bad traits, it makes sense for them to say bad things, you know?
It's like Lucky Louie, where Louie was the one good person, and all of his friends had terrible traits, but they just owned it. And you went into it and you were like, oh, those are his crazy friends. You weren't like, there still was a moral compass to it, and then a bunch of insanity around it.
I thought that cartoon was kind of good. I didn't see any of that.
You did that on purpose. You know he's not talking about Life with Louie.
Oh, I didn't even know where you were going. I was like, what's the joke?
You should know because he's smiling.
He's saying
as
it with a
doing
shit-eating grin on his
Oh
face.
no, I know he
what
was trying to do
doing.
something. I just didn't think Life with Louie was where his brain was going.
I speak
Only
Gordo.
dildo.
Mom.
The Wops are asking, hey, did you guys happen to see our commercial, by the way? As far as like the, getting advertising out for your shop. It just cuts to like, it must have been a different time where Shane and Will were in the back office and it's playing in the background. And they're just like screaming and it's like nonsense and annoying. And it was just like, dude, shut this off. What the fuck is this?
They also say our prices are low. Oh, which fucking destroyed me.
And it cuts back and they're like, yeah, we saw it. It's fucking really obnoxious. He's like, yeah, loud, right? Like, yeah, people fucking hate it. He's like, yeah, we hated it. I hated it. He's like, oh, did you really? But it was memorable, right? Like, yeah, I can't stop thinking about it. He's like, let's go. We did it.
I mean, it's perfect, right? I think I drove by a place because we listen to the radio on weekends sometimes if we're like doing yard work or whatever. And you hear the same commercials for the same weird places. I drove by a place I hear the most annoying commercial for all the time. We were both like, oh my God, it's Chapter 11 furniture. Like that stuff will weed itself into your brain.
I doubt it.
Oh man. Is he dead? Is that still a place?
Oh,
Bean?
he's definitely dead.
He wasn't old. He's probably alive, but old.
All right. We need to look into the Dean's furniture.
I was going to say, we got to get somebody on this now.
They also want to tell Will and Shane about how they just hired a new girl at the office who's has big boobies. So they're talking about that. And Shane's very engaged in the conversation. He's like, Will's more of an ass man. And that's when one of them, did we mention that it's Andrew Schultz? Was that even brought up earlier?
No, I don't think we did.
He's one of the Wops. Yeah. So Andrew Schultz is one of them, by the way. And he's like, well, if you like asses, check this one out. And then he goes and shows Will the phone, and Will's like, wow, yeah, that's really nice, actually. Have you had sex with her? And he's like, nah, it's my cousin. And the way he casually delivered that line,
Yeah.
I thought made it the line of the whole episode. It wasn't because it was so crazy. It was because it was so crazy and he didn't deliver it like a fucking clown.
Yeah.
Are we to assume that he has a picture of his cousin's ass on his phone, or was he going
He
to
probably
like her
pulled up her
Facebook?
Instagram or something like that. I don't think he got like a sexual photo from his cousin sent to him, but I thought it was just, I don't know, the way that it was so matter of fact when he said it. And then they start asking Will, like, would you have sex with her? And he doesn't want to answer because he doesn't know what the right answer is. So do they want him to say, yes, I find your cousin attractive, like she's pretty? Because by saying no, is that offensive? So now he's like sweating bullets trying to figure this whole thing out. He doesn't know what to say. And like the way that the scene is working, there's a lot of quick cuts from person to person, like kind of interrogating him. And he's like really having a hard time with it.
What does he say though? He goes, well, if it wasn't your cousin, I would
Knock the bottom out of it. I wrote that down because I've never heard that expression before.
I love it though.
It was funny coming from him too, because it's clearly not the way he talks. So, but he's trying to be relatable to the other guys.
Has anybody else heard that expression before, or is that new to everybody?
That was new to me. At least I think it was new to me. I don't recall it in the past.
I don't
But-
ever recall it.
Might say it now.
I was going to say, now it's in there. Yeah, now it's in the brain.
There is a quick cutaway during this whole thing that I want to mention just because it's important to later on. Because while all this is happening and they're trying to get him to admit whether or not he would have sex with their cousin, you see the pan over and the girl Kyla that works there gets hurt because her and Cal are trying to move some of the tires and something like falls on her foot. So, it's so quick, but it needs to get mentioned because it's going to come up later on.
I wish she got a little more airtime because the little bit you learned about her throughout the episode, it's like she seems like a great character.
But, it's episode 1 and there's time to breathe. And yeah, like we said, there's 4 people that work there and 2 of them basically don't talk for most of the episode.
Listen, let the show be its onion self. Multiple layers.
Oh, is that what that expression means? This is where we go to food chat in the episode.
Yeah.
We talk about onions for half an hour. Moving on.
Yeah. Finally, they get Will to admit that he would indeed have sex with their cousin. And they're like, yeah, was that so hard? Okay, now we can move on.
I love that he thought that they were gonna be
I like
mad
that.
at him.
Yeah, there was no actual consequence to it answering the question, that he was just nervous about it.
Funny, I got the feeling like he didn't know. If he says yes, are they going to be mad that he wants to fuck their cousin? But if he says no, are they going to be mad that he says he wouldn't fuck their cousin?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. He didn't know what their perspective was. That's why he didn't want to answer. He just would say whichever thing he thought would not offend them.
It does seem like they know these guys pretty well, though, which makes me think that they would know the answer would be fine. You know what I mean? Like, if you know these guys enough, I'm pretty sure they've had enough interactions where they could.
I would just like to point out, too, that this is not a character choice. This is how Andrew Schulz actually wears his hair, and it's the dumbest haircut I've ever seen on a human being.
It's interesting.
I've seen a good amount of people with that hair.
He admits, though, and just for the listener's sake, it's not that crazy to me. The sides are kind of shaved, but like stylized where it kind of curves and it's slick.
In this, like, it looks like they bicked the side of his head 10 minutes before filming, which they maybe did. And that is what I think is weird about it. If there was like stubble and some sort of fade, but he is bald 2 inches from like above his ear, and then it's just a full head of hair. It's the weirdest looking thing.
And he's super embraced the mustache lately.
He looks like the wrestler Simon Gotch. Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah,
With the
yeah,
mustache
yeah.
and that
Didn't he get
haircut?
canceled?
No, I think he was just like known to be a dick. So I
Yeah.
think people were just over him. He didn't like have enough stock for people to deal with this bullshit. He wasn't like primed to be like the future of the business, so it wasn't worth it.
Wish I could pull off a mustache.
Only one way to find out.
Oh, I've tried numerous times. It always looks very, very bad.
I think anyone who's ever had a beard and shaved has tested what they look like
Oh,
with a
yeah.
mustache. Like,
I've had mustaches before. I mean, it's testers, not like for permanent things, but
I will shave a goatee like once a month just to do Stone Cold in the mirror and then finish shaving.
I used to have a mustache. Prolific one.
I remember your mustache. You had a good one.
I mean, I still technically do.
You had the curl and everything. You were like a TV
You should bring
villain.
back just the stash for the summer.
I was thinking of that, but I think my wife would disown me.
Really?
Yeah, she does not like it. She saw pictures of it with me in it, and she was like, nope.
Oh,
don't do
that's where
that.
she draws the line, Gordo.
Yeah.
I know. Puts up with so much stuff. You're trying to photo edit pictures of your dog shitting so you can put him in the bathroom because she won't have a problem with it. But Gordo with a mustache is going to be the fucking bomb that drops and breaks it all.
we joke around a lot, especially at Gordo's expense. Like, there's a lot of like kidding behind it. There was legit shades of anger when Gordo, without joking, sends us pictures of his dog taking his shit and actually wants us to Photoshop the leashes out. Like, hey, can you do me a favor? Like, that's a normal fucking ask. And I'm just like, I'm standing on my porch just looking at my phone like, what the fuck did he just send me?
I was at work just yelling at him, like, what's wrong with you?
Meanwhile, Jay sends some of the most depraved shit I have ever seen on the internet, but a dog pooping is what sets him over the edge. It's a little ridiculous.
I think it's just me. I think I just poked the bear too much.
Yeah, I think it's about where it's coming from more than
I've
what
also
it is.
been very clear where I stand with a lot of cucka humor. So, like, that's not really my bread and butter anyways.
I don't mind it. It's the fact that he wants it so he can print them out and put them up as art in his house.
Yeah, that's
I
what
am
bothered
going
me.
to.
A dog taking a shit you see all the time.
Look at behind you. You have like the rising sun flag.
I was with my brother at the time. We were about to leave the house, and I'm like, there's actual shit in the picture. I was like,
There's no poop. That's a leaf.
no, one of them, there is poop.
Yeah, then that dog ate a leaf and shit it out. That was
And
shit.
also, Gordo, to my wall, a lot of that is very rare art in the wall, and that's a band poster. That's not.
Art.
And it was specifically signed to Dave.
I only have 2 autographs that aren't signed to my name, and the other one I have, we can't figure out what the name is on it anyway, so it might as well just pay Joe.
Just saying, what is art to you is not art to me, and vice versa.
That's fine. You can put anything you want in your bathroom. I'm not here to tell you you can't do it, but I am here to say that's fucking insane.
It's not insane. It's funny. Is it something off-brand for me?
No, it's on brand.
So with all that aside, we cut to later on, and we have the staff of 4 all in the back room. You see Kyla sitting there with her foot up, and it's like, it doesn't look good. So it's pretty banged up. I guess I'm surprised that I think it was just tires falling on it, right? But it hurt her more than I think. I would have thought at least.
You're the expert on ankle injuries, Jay.
I won't say I'm an expert. I've just dealt with them. But,
Tires hurt, and I actually have a funny story. There used to be this prank, and unfortunately, it would happen to me, or it happened to me once. They would, so if you had to go to the bathroom when you were working, right? What they would do is if they knew you were going number 2, they would rip the door open, and somebody would launch a tire from the end of the aisle, and just the tire would come in and just destroy you while you can't stand up, you can't block it, you just gotta fucking brace for impact and take this tire. And then they just close the door and let it go, and it fucking hurts.
That sounds terrible. That's not a prank. That's
Dude,
assault.
I mean, it happened to me, and at the time I was pretty pissed about it, but hindsight being what it is, it's a pretty hysterical thing to do to someone while they're taking a shit.
I think you're right, though. What do? You can't jump up at that point.
where I thought it was going for some reason was I had this mental picture of the bathroom needs a key and they tie it to like a short rope on a tire. So like to open the door, you have to like lift the tire and like get the key in.
See, where I thought it was going was you said that you had to use the bathroom and then they'd push you in like tires, like, you know, like kind of tip you over so that you like.
I thought you were gonna say they built like a pyramid in front of the door of tires so you couldn't get out. It went a completely different way.
They're drilling me in the shin while I'm taking a dump with a tire.
I would never poop at work, and that's some of my favorite part of working.
So they're all looking at her foot. Shane's like, "Oh, dude, like they might have to remove the foot." And Will's nervous. He's like, "No. Like, listen, I'll take you to the hospital later, but I need you to be here right now for when the reporter comes, because it's very important that he sees that there's a girl working there." He's like, "And also, like, you know, things like this happen all the time with you. You've already used up all your sick days and all your vacation time. And I did look the other way the day after you went to that Insane Clown Posse concert." He's like, "I couldn't get the fucking makeup off, okay?" It's like,
I mean, even if my tire had exploded and I just happened to have it explode in the parking lot of a tire shop, if I walked in and there was a juggalo there being like, "Can I help you?" I'd be like, "No, I'm just going to call a tow truck and pay more money to not deal with this situation."
I love the idea of someone having to go to work with, like, you know, when you get pranked when you're younger and people draw all over you in your sleep and stuff, like, and sometimes you can't get it all off the next day, like, and you gotta go to work and you're cleaned, but there's still remnants of it. Like, imagine just being like full, like, faded juggalo all over your face.
Got to embrace the life.
Whoop, whoop.
Again, it's understood that, listen, I'll take you when he leaves, but you need to stay at work for now. So he's not letting her go to the doctor just yet, despite her foot looking pretty bad.
It is an at-work injury, too. Like, this is a lawsuit scenario.
Yeah, I know. All the more so. She legit got hurt working at work, and you can verify that it happened there, yeah. That conversation cuts to the reporter, and he's, like, alone in the waiting area, and he's just, like, looking at one of those dumb posters, the pro-women ones that they made. The reporter, played by Tom Petty.
He does have a Tom Petty vibe to him.
This guy's the ugliest guy in the world.
Oh, all right, hold on.
Jeez, come on, man.
He's so ugly. I don't care. Is. That fucking hideous comb over.
Is he the guy from Rickety Snicket? Is he the Rickety brothers from Always Sunny?
Those are two different characters, and I think you were also bringing up Lemony Snicket there for a minute.
Yeah, but he also is confusing the McBoyle twins with two of, what's his name?
The McPoyles and
Rickety Cricket.
And Rickety Snicket.
Rickety Cricket, yeah.
No, yeah. I thought he was talking about Lemony Snicket, like those movies.
I think that's what he was confusing. I will say, as opposed to Nick, if this guy's listening to the episode, very handsome fella.
Yeah, I don't think you're the ugliest, but I thought you looked like Tom Petty.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Petty, historically a handsome man.
No, he's famous, so he got to bang a lot of people. Doesn't make him handsome in real life.
You can be both. It's not one or the other.
Well, anyways, he's sitting there, and Will comes to greet him, and he's like, apparently the reporter's getting an oil change while he's there, because why not? and Will's telling him, like, "Hey, you know, don't worry, like, you know, obviously it'll be on the house, no charge." And he's like, "You're not, like, trying to bribe me because of this article, right?" He's like, No. And he's, like, nervously laughing.
They do a good job and make you instantly hate this guy.
He is. He's a little...
He's a dick.
It's a twerp.
He's kind of dickish right off the bat. That was something that we'll definitely get into, like, the more we see of this character later on. but I didn't quite understand why he was the way that he was.
Well, that's like a thing, isn't it? Like a shitty journalist will do that to like incite an article, right? Like, it's
sure. I just thought like the context of like the kind of article he's writing isn't supposed to have like a deeper rooted story to it. It's supposed to be like a little blurb on the page.
Well, after like 5 minutes of this guy, I'm hoping they fuck up his car on purpose, which doesn't happen.
I was waiting for it. You know, because it doesn't happen, we can just say it now. The whole time I'm waiting for them to fuck with his car. They never did.
There's a scene towards the end of the episode where he's like, get my car off the lift right now. And then they cut to a scene with his car and you're like, okay, what are they going to do? And nothing.
I couldn't believe it. You know, like, for all the times we say that things are too predictable, the one time that there was a very predictable situation coming up, because you're like excited to see like what wacky thing are they going to do.
I'm glad they didn't do it. That was the easy road, and I'm glad they didn't do it actually, because that's cheap. That's easy. Of course,
I want it cheap because I need to see him get his comeuppance, and he doesn't.
What about his muffins?
You wanted him to have some cum muffins, you said.
I was going to say, I know Jay's going to say cum muffins. I fucking know it.
Cum muffins? Oh,
gross.
You said comeuppance, and it was like a countdown clock to when Jay said it.
In fairness, if that's what Joe is expecting me to say, it also entered his brain.
Yes, we've discussed how you're both equally fucked up.
Yeah, we're Team Cum.
So...
See, it's the 2024 Olympics.
Every time, this literally happened last week too, where in my brain I'm like, oh, that'd be a funny way to start the episode. We obviously, when you guys listen, you hear this little clip in the beginning. And then I have to remind myself, oh, I can't start an episode with cum talk because...
You can for the audience of this show.
I was going to say, for this show, I think you could.
Yeah, this is a cum pro cum.
Cum pro cum. Anyway... as they're talking to you, get a couple cutaways. There's a lot of cutting back and forth because this is obviously, I don't know if we really talked about it, but this is a single camera style show. As Will and the reporter are talking, you get a couple cuts to Shane and Cal talking as well. And you just see like Shane just desperately wanting to go over there and get involved in the conversation. And Cal's like, don't do it, man. Just leave it alone. He's like, and he's like, it's hurting him to not go over there.
It was hurting me. I'm yelling at the TV, don't go in there.
Like, do we think this character is just generally a shit stirrer, or is he bored at work and wants to change things up? Like, I don't understand what we're supposed to get for him needing to be part of this.
Yeah, it's both. It's just like,
all of the above.
That's how he gets through the day. He likes to fucking cause trouble and pull pranks. And that's when we get back to the reporter talking, like that smell of the tires, he's like, does it always smell so strong in here with the tire smell? And it's like, I mean, in fairness, you are in a tire shop. I get that it's the result of him ordering an abundance of tires, but to walk into a tire shop and be like, why does it smells like tires in here?
I get that they got a bunch, but do they have to keep them in the waiting room? Was there nowhere else?
I think that's the joke, is they're out of space.
Yeah, there's so many that you don't know what to do with them.
You see, like, the shop area, they have room.
Yeah, there are like a lot of mechanic bays.
You gotta go with the sake of the joke too, though. You know what I mean? They have to be so, plentiful that they got to be everywhere.
See, the way around this would be he comes in while they're unloading the tires, so they're still in the process, and that's why the waiting room smells like that.
Or he sees her get hurt by the tire.
Again, when you cut back to Cal and Shane, it's like, I'm not gonna let the lamestream media try to fuck up this shop. And fucking journos in here. I don't think I've ever heard a journalist refer to
fucking journos. I loved that.
Is that an actual derogatory word towards
journalists?
You
never heard that?
No,
I've never
heard it either. No.
Oh, it's pretty common.
Oh, you must watch a different news channel than us.
I was gonna say, is that a truth social comment?
Even if I watched a different news channel than yours, I don't think they'd refer to themselves as journos. So that is terrible.
All those fucking other journos over there in the other network.
So there's also you guys brought it up earlier. For whatever reason, he's like, I really want to talk to one of the mechanics, like for this in-depth piece he's writing. And somehow Shane ends up being that guy. So now we see Shane with the two of them in the office area. The scene starts with Will just whispering to Shane, trying to prep him for this before they get started. But obviously the reporter's like 2 feet away. You could hear half of it. I liked Shane's reaction when he's being whispered at to kind of acknowledge. He goes, "What?"
Oh, but this part was tough for me because I wasn't really focusing on any of that because I was still mad. Like, why is he in there and not the other guy, which we discussed before? So it's like I really didn't pay that much attention or notice that part.
Maybe he was out back finishing a beer like Chris Farley's character in Coneheads when he's not able to do it.
So now they're all about to start talking, and the reporter is like, "All right, well, tell me about this new initiative." And it's, we're just trying to attract more women to the shop. And Shane cuts in with, "We need more shodies." And he's like, "Excuse me?" Will's trying to cover. He's like, "Oh, he just means women, like," he's telling him to stop. And Will's like, "Oh, we're just trying to make women feel more comfortable in the industry." And, it's interesting because it's actually like an industry that women don't often feel comfortable in. And the reporter's like, "Well, how are you going to make them feel more comfortable?" He's like, "Well, and that's when Shane's like, "Massage." And the reporter's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, it was your idea. The new room massages." He's like, "Was that supposed to be funny?" He's like, "Yes, me giving customers new room massages is definitely funny." He's like, "All right, my bad, dude." Like,
Did anybody else know what a new room massage was?
I did.
I had to look it up, and that's even funnier when you find out what it is.
That with the sticks?
No, it's a massage where both the masseuse and the person getting the massage are naked. They're both covered in a gel that's made out of seaweed, and it's full body where like the person gets on top of you to massage you.
It's quite an enlightening video experience to watch.
that's the kind of porn you watch?
It comes up. It's not like I've watched like Nuru Girls on Pornhub.
I like the idea of looking at videos of someone who looks like Shane Gillis on top of someone just like naked, covered in seaweed. Like he's more like Shane Gilly suit.
I will say when I looked it up, because I did not know what it was, I read about it. I was smart enough to look on my phone, not my work computer, because I had an inkling that shouldn't be something I looked up. But I did not look up a video for it. I was like, oh, that's what that is. I did not need to then see photographic proof of it.
You're missing out. You guys are missing out. I'm just saying. Gotta expand your horizons.
So he's continuing on, and then the reporter's like, "Do you think that just by putting up like pink signs, women are going to feel more comfortable?" He's like, "No, it's like more complicated than that." He's like, "Well, it just seems a little reductive." And Shane's kind of flipping it and saying, "It's like, it does seem reductive now that he's saying it."
I'm just saying this character seemed like he has a vendetta against them. Like he's like prickish, picking apart every little thing. It would have made more sense if they had known him from like high school and bullied him or something. Like,
I agree.
Oh no, it's him.
I agree
Like,
there, yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely missing from this.
But to be fair, it's a stupid premise.
Exactly. So that might be it. So think about it this way. Think about it from the dumb journo's perspective, right? Not only is this his assignment, he has to go write a story on a tire shop, but then he walks into the tire shop and they're trying to peddle this, terrible idea.
Sure.
And so he's just not he's bottom of the barrel. So that's why he has the attitude he does.
But keep in mind, the first time we see him, he's standing there and Will walks up. He's like, "Hey man, thanks for coming, free oil change." And he's already being a dick. Like the first thing we see is someone being nice to him and doing something for him for free and him being a dick about it. So
I disagree there. I think that he was joking when he said, "You're trying to give me a bribe, are you?" Because he's a small town reporter doing an article on a oil shop. I don't think that's like a bribe scenario. It'd be like a $29 bribe.
Right, but when you look at his character, there's like nothing else that supports the idea that he would tell a joke.
I think if he said, "And then we'll also align your tires and we'll put in new shocks and struts," then maybe it feels more like a bribe. But to just be like, "We change oil here and it's really inexpensive and it takes 5 minutes and we'll do it for you too," it's not a big enough bribe, I think, for...
Sure, but if he delivered it as like, "Hey, you're not trying to bribe me, are you?" But the way he said it was very deadpan, so I believed it to be.
I think that he takes himself more serious than he actually is, because you're all saying the correct thing. Like, he's the bottom of the barrel puff piece person to write about this stupid tire shop. He's not Capote or whatever his name is.
Like said, I just think a quick line that gives him a little bit of backstory that would have related him to the other characters would have helped. I think it would have justified the way he acted a little bit better. And because there were points where it took me out of it a little bit where I'm like, why is he this way? And I think just a quick little sideline could have given you just enough context for you to not take yourself out of it for a moment to think about it.
Yeah, like think about old school when like the dean hates them all, and it's because they used to throw them in a dumpster. Yeah, I got out.
And another thing too is as he's like interrogating him, this idea with like they look over at like Kyla and like, oh, so that woman, you hired her? And he's like nervous and like he's saying he did, but we don't know yet. But you can just tell by his reaction that he's not the one who actually hired her. But like this weird thing that it was like such a gotcha moment later on too. Like it seemed off.
I'm glad you noticed that because I'm like, why does it matter who hired her? It's still a female working there, which is
she
the
still
whole
works
point.
there. Like,
I think though, because he's taking all the credit for this initiative, that's why it means something. That he hasn't actually done anything of substance.
Yeah, but she doesn't have to have anything to do with the initiative. It could be like that's how we feel anyway. It's not just we hired her because of this initiative. We're not pandering.
Yeah, and again, I know it's like TV, and then we always kind of do this where we dig deep, but it was one of those things that because that comes up later, it was like it was in there, and it just didn't seem like a valid enough point. But also, I do want to mention in the same part of the scene is when it cuts over to Shane and he's asking about him, and Shane's like, you know, like puffing his chest out, and he's like, I'm Shane, 6'3", 240. And he's talking about like, you know, where he used to play football. He's like, oh, first team? He's like, no, I was actually honorable mention. And the reporter's like, oh, well, now that's funny.
I got a laugh out of that. I thought that was him throwing it back at him.
Shane's reaction to that was funny. Why the fuck is that funny?
But this would have been their opportunity to say how they know each other, and then you get an idea why he's got the vendetta against them. But they did decide not to go that way, which is fine, but it would have helped.
Once that happened, like the gloves were off of both of them. Like now they openly just don't like each other. So once he said that, he's like, hey, I came all the way over here from the paper. He's like, oh, you drove all the way down here from the big paper. And Will's trying to defend. He's like, yeah, you drove all the way down here from the big paper. Thank you.
This is where you start to get a little off of the, if you don't like the reporter anyway, but like he drops a real shithead bomb here on Shane.
Well, before when Shane's like still digging deeper and he's like, you know, just the idea that like you came all the way over here to just write a piece on a tire shop, like kind of like putting him in check, like how this isn't important, like when they're talking about the headlines and stuff.
Right? He's one step away from being like a Yelp reviewer.
Yeah. And he's like, extra, broads are getting hired down at the shop. And he's like, I'm not taking headline advice from someone who changes tires for a living. He's like, oh yeah? Oklahoma drills right now, you and me in the shop. He's like, I'll put you through a fucking wall. And you just see him like faking, like putting his hands up, like how he would physically attack him.
Now, I will say a minute ago when I said that I didn't look up the video of the newer massage, I had no idea what an Oklahoma drill was, so I looked up a video of that.
Are those the ones where you start on your back?
No, it's like two guys running.
Yeah, no, it's just linesmen running into each other. Like when offensive and defensive linemen are hitting each other, they practice that with the Oklahoma drill, I think. Like,
well,
that's
yeah, I mean, there wasn't when we were younger, but we played football. Like we did all the drills. I just don't know which drills or which.
Yeah, I think that's the one you start 3-point stance and then you both just go up into each other.
See, I thought it was the one where you each lay on your back, they blow the whistle, you get up, and one's got to get by each other. But I guess not.
That was the one. Ferg remembers it because the one time he ever did anything athletic in his life was that drill when we were kids. He got up quick and he was able to like press that kid down like pretty fast. And that was his moment. That's when Ferg retired from sports. He had his.
If coach put me in, we would have won state.
And all the while during a lot of this stuff, because it's like a pressure situation now because Will's panicky because of how bad this is going. The phone's ringing over and over again. And you cut over because he wants Kyla to pick up the phone. She's literally standing next to the phone or sitting because of her foot. And you just see her ignoring it the whole time. And this is where we get the joke that Gordo would have, this would be enough for Gordo to pass the episode alone.
I fucking hate this joke.
First, Will asks, like, hey, did you notice the flowers we put out? Like, this is his big girls initiative. Look, we put out flowers. he asked the reporter how long he's been a reporter for, and he says 9 years. And then Shane asks, "Hey, and how long have you known Ligma?" He's like, "What's Ligma?" He goes, "Ligma balls, dumbass." And even Will was like, I can't believe you didn't get that one.
I thought it was great.
That's amazing.
I hate that fucking joke.
I just love at this point the gloves came off. It's like they're not even pretending to like each
Yeah,
other
now it's not
anymore.
even passive
Like,
aggressive. Now it's just like, I fucking hate you.
It's so juvenile. Like, it's amazing. It's an amazing retort.
I just like, I don't know, there's something about Will, like, despite how stressed he was in that moment, being like, "Come on, man, you didn't get that one?"
Yeah, Will's response is great.
And now Will finally gets the phone because the phone's been ringing the whole time, and obviously she's not going to pick it up. As soon as he answers, he does like the Valley Forge Auto, "This is Will, how can I help you?" And you just hear, "Zip it, dickwad. You're in deep shit. Your dad's pissed off." And you would know, even if you didn't see the trailer, like, I'm sure, like, Nick, you would have been able to pull him just by the voice, but
Oh yeah, he's easily one of my favorite comedians right now, and I think in probably the past 20 years, best crowd work comedian out there is Stavros. He's so fucking funny.
See, I don't know his name, but I know he is such like I guess kind of iconic look to him, like or
Sure.
memorable look.
he stands out for sure.
He's a very
He
large Greek man, yeah.
But he has the look of someone who's older than he is, because he's got like kind of the long skullet hair though, and like kind of like the some weak facial hair. But he's a hefty boy, you know, like myself. But he's a pretty big boy, and always in like tracksuits.
He's like a hipster Gallagher.
Now, I wish they either showed him or talked about him earlier, though, because when this happened, I didn't know who this character was supposed to be. And like, I was a little confused about the dynamic.
Yeah, but I think you get an idea of it soon, pretty quickly. Like, he says it right here.
Well, it's weird. Like, we know that. Well, what happens is they have a quick interaction on the phone, but Will's like, "Hey, you know, I'm busy right now. I'll call you in a second." So he kind of like hangs up. We cut a little later, and now he's finally calling him. And when he calls him back, when you see Stavros again, you see him in a different shop, and there's a title on the screen to tell you that he's in a different branch for Valley Forge Auto. So it's the same company. He's just, I assume he's Will's position in that branch.
No, I think he's the district manager.
Yeah, he seems higher because he's telling Will what to do.
Yeah, like
Right.
he's probably second in command.
Yeah, he says if the dad dies, he'd take over. Like,
But again, because they gave him a title card, I think all they would have had to do is put like a little parenthetical district manager or something.
Sure.
You know, like they're already doing a title card anyway. Why do you not also include what he is? I just think it would have helped. I mean, you get what he is eventually, but I don't know.
And it
That's what I would have
sounds
done.
like, or the way I understood it anyways, I could be wrong. It sounds like that where he is calling from is like kind of like the hub, right? Because that's also where Will's dad is out of.
That's true too. Yeah, his dad is
Yeah.
obviously working. He's not there right now, but that's where he works from. So, it's
So
like
it
the
sounds
office.
like, yeah, it sounds like Stavros is like the number 2 to Will's dad who owns everything. And like, I mean, it looks like the same, you know, tire shop, but it's like the HQ tire shop or whatever.
Yeah. And it could just be that just being the right-hand man to the owner, even if his position isn't technically higher than Will's, which we don't know 100%, he would kind of rank over him anyways, just in relation to where he sits with Will's father.
Well, he's also been doing it longer, too.
also, I assume that this is Will's uncle because the family dynamic so far and the way he talks to him, because it takes a lot of balls to talk to the main boss's son the way he talks to him.
That's a good point. I don't think of it that way. But also, like, everything in this is things that people would get in trouble for at like most companies. You know what I mean?
It kind of gave me a family vibe. Like you would only talk to like, if like they were cousins, like him and Shane were also, like, I can see that being why he was able to speak to him like that, you know? Or they've just known each other forever.
He's telling him, like, "Why the fuck did you order 500 tires?" He's like, just admit you fucked up. He's like, "Well, I mean, but we got a huge discount because I bought in bulk." He's like, "Yeah, but you didn't know there was a discount until after you already bought them, dickhead." and I do like you're trying to pretend like this discount is why you did it, but yeah, it's like, you're combating against someone who already has the facts, so you can't go in it that way.
I did some digging around too. I couldn't find what the standard inventory for a tire shop is anywhere, but it's a much lower markup when you sell a tire versus service and other parts. So the bottom line of this, I think, is the big issue too, right? Like they have to move all these things, and even if they do, it's a way lower profit margin than they would have got from moving other stuff.
There's also, like we talked about, not completely understanding the dynamic between the two. It didn't really help here where they're both kind of fighting over who would be in charge if Will's father was to pass.
Just like, is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to kill your dad to take over?
This is one of those characters in a pilot episode we watched where you're like, you want episode 2 or 3 or whatever, because you just want more interactions with those two people.
I thought it was funny too when they were talking about the father and if anything were to happen to him. And he's like, what would you do if something happened? Dave asking Will. And Will's reaction isn't, Dave means with the business. But Will's reaction is, well, me and my mother would have to get together and settle his affairs. And like, as if like they're planning the funeral. And that was the question, not so much the business.
No, because he said, I would be in charge. And he said, well, we'd have to settle the affairs, meaning he would take over, I thought.
Yeah, he was trying to put him in his place. Gordo's right.
And he did a bad job at it.
Oh, I read it the same way Jay did.
Yeah, the way he said settle his affairs, I definitely thought he was talking about focusing on just the
No, but this came right after saying if the dad died, I'd be in charge. And he'd go, no, me and my mother would have to settle his affairs. And then saying like they don't know who would get everything.
Well, regardless, I guess it's a split decision here, so interpret as you will. Shane walks into the room that Will's in on the phone. As he's walking in, you get the other line from Dave too, asking him like you said, so what are you trying to kill your father? You think you're Uday Hussein?
I enjoy a good Uday Hussein reference in a sitcom, and I could think of another one too, because there's an Uday Hussein reference in The Office.
I feel like that's Shane Gillis comedy right there, because he's also, I assume, Joe, you're probably the only person who hasn't seen any of his stand-up. I don't know if Gordo has either, but.
No, I have. I see him in Instagram reels, but I've seen it.
Shane's a big history guy and like worldly news. Like he's really big on that stuff. So when I heard the Uday Hussein joke, it definitely was like, that was a Shane joke.
I really dislike this part. I like that joke, but the fake blowjob part's funny, but it goes on for way too long that it was just like, okay, everyone's made the blowjob joke. You don't have to keep going.
All right, well, to set up what you just said, yeah, while they're having the conversation, Shane walked in, like I said, and now he's telling Will, he's trying to whisper to him, like, hey, like, I'm sorry about what happened back there. I was just really pissed at that dude. I want to make it up to you. And yeah, he gets on his knees and he starts, like, fake giving Will a blowjob, but he's getting very, very into it as he's doing it. So Will, we said before, at the end of the day, Will thinks Shane's really funny. This is actually when we first find out that they're cousins, too, because some of the things he said, while he's there.
I feel like this is a real crack too, because when he says, yeah, you like your cousin sucking your dick, I feel like Will's smile and laugh is completely genuine. Like that was a ad-libbed line, and like, how the fuck do you not laugh at that?
I think it was good too, because while he's still on the phone with Dave, now Dave's getting pissed off because Will just keeps laughing. He doesn't know why he's laughing on the phone, because he's trying to reprimand him over like buying all these tires. And he doesn't even seem like, at first he seemed remorseful, but now he's like laughing through the conversation. So now he's like, what the fuck are you laughing about?
Yeah, I thought it was going to end with like the reporter walking in on him and thinking he was really blowing him. This never happened.
Yeah, me too.
That would have been a way more interesting story, I'm sure.
If the reporter opened up the door at that moment and just saw like Shane on his knees and like turning around and being like, not that this isn't what you look. I was trying to think of a funnier line, but in the moment I froze up. But
it's not what you think. We're cousins.
Would have been great.
If he looked back and just said to the reporter, like, I wouldn't actually suck my cousin's dick, like that would have been enough.
I was just trying to unstuck him from this closet. Step cousin.
So now we cut back to Kyla, and she's at the front desk with her foot up, and the reporter walks up to her and he's like, hey, do you mind like if I ask you a few questions about the shop? And starts with, hey, when Will hired you, did he mention this initiative that he's gonna be starting and like explain any of the details? And it's just what? No, Will didn't hire me. His dad did. And I will say, like when it came up before, like this piece of it all was all very, like, I don't know. It felt like the most unnatural dialogue of the episode was anything in relation to focusing on whether or not Will was the actual person to hire her.
This is also another moment where you're like, that person would be fired immediately. This would not be we transferred them.
Yeah, she says like, no, the father hired her probably in the other branch where we saw earlier. And she got transferred for, she got in trouble for calling one of their customers, a derogatory word towards homosexuals that starts with an F that I'm not going to say because I don't want that recorded in my voice.
Fraggle.
Called him a fraggle. She then asks the reporter, hey, do you have a wife? He's like, no, I have a girlfriend. She's like, that's not what I said. Don't you take notes for a fucking living? Like,
that was good, yeah.
Then none of them worry about their job. Like, they're all fucking talking to this guy like that,
No,
which is gonna hurt the business. And it's
I
like,
will say, I think we've talked about this before, but there is something to when you work a job like that, and this is no disrespect to that job, but jobs where you don't see yourself staying long term anyways, you don't care. You know, like you are more willing to say things in that position than you would if you work somewhere that you were happy or wanted to stay there for a long time. But if any of them were to get fired from that shop, I don't think anyone would be like, well, now what?
but I don't think she couldn't hate it that much if she stays there with a broken ankle to help them out. Like,
Well, she has
Or
no
she
ride to the
can't-
hospital otherwise.
Yeah, she can't get there on her own, so she's kind of stuck there.
She's kind of stuck. She can't drive. But yeah, Will sees her and the reporter talking and like runs out to try to cut that conversation off. He's like, hey, sorry, I think we got off on the wrong foot. And the reporter instantly is like, did you not hire this woman? It's like, well, technically no, but my dad did. And he's like, no, but you said you did. Like just it just seemed like the weirdest thing to be hung up on. Like, I'm sorry.
that's your gotcha moment, guy? Come on.
And it's like, and you also didn't let her leave after being injured? And he goes, well, she's an alcoholic, so.
It's
And
like
he
the
just
best
cuts
response.
she cuts to her, and she's just kind of like, yeah, he's right.
I love that she just shrugs it, like, yeah.
That's why she needed more TV time. I love this character because I love women.
And we don't know because we're only getting bits and pieces, but this character is one that can come off very strong with the kind of stories we're at least getting. So maybe it's just being careful about how much you're giving us at once with that character, because what little we're hearing from her, they're all kind of crazy things each time.
Yeah, maybe it will be too much too soon, I think, given her character trajectory.
Yeah, but instead we got 18 minutes of Shane Gillis. And it's like
He's the star.
Nick was saying earlier. He's not, though, and you get way too much of him.
I don't think we're getting too much of him again, but
And I like him.
I don't think we're getting enough of his personality. I thought he was muted a lot in the show.
He was just on his knees sucking a dick, making cousin jokes. I don't think he's necessarily muted.
Yeah, I don't,
Let Me Fly. Yeah. Also, he wrote and created the show, so it's not like he's being held back. These are his words. To go back, Will's like telling the reporter, like, hey, like, let's start over and we can rewrite this whole thing and have a new conversation. He's like, what? No. He's like, I have my story. He's like, but it's going to still be like a lighthearted puff piece, right? He's like, no. And then does that whole like, when's my car ready? Let me know. And then we cut to the garage, and that's, again, like, I thought for sure they were going to do something with his car there, but
Key it, do something, yeah.
Will's like sitting in the back with like his hands on his head. And he's like upset that he fucked this up. And that's when Shane's telling him, like, you know, do you want me to like fix this? Like, I can square this whole thing away. He's like, can you? He's like, yeah, but you're going to have to admit that you're a dirty little pervert first. And he goes, okay, I'm a dirty little pervert. He goes, ew, dude. Like, the way he replied, like with the ew after he admitted to just saying something that he basically made him copy and paste and say back to him, like, I don't know, it was great.
I will say we talked about the other mechanic here earlier, and he doesn't get a lot of lines, but his one line here, I think, sets up what his whole character is. And they're like, it couldn't get any worse, and he just says, like, I'm certain it could. Like, that is that guy's position there. I think if you're going to even use him for one line, that's kind of the perfect place to insert him.
And now we cut back to that front area, and the reporter is like sitting there typing on the laptop, and Shane walks over and sits right next to him, and Will's like right behind. Will's sitting next to Shane now, and Shane's just like, hey, like, can we chat for a second? Like, I promise, like, it won't be long. And he gives him like, he totally character flips now. He's just being very honest and like regular. He's like, hey, I'm just really sorry about like what's been going on. It's been a weird day. Will does have all his best intentions, and we really do want women here. Like, we want them to feel comfortable. Like this, there's not a garage for miles where like a girl can like go and feel comfortable. And like, that's gotta suck. So, we do want to help.
At this point, I wasn't sure if he was going to be genuine or if he was going to be fucking with them. And then he says, we want to be that change. And that was a line where I was like, oh, he's fucking with them. I know where this is going. Like, that was just like the one line over,
And the reporter's like, you know what? I appreciate this apology. Like, I think that it's noble. This was where it got real good because he keeps the tone, but this is when, if you didn't know up front, now you know he's just doing this to fuck around. And he's going like, hey man, like, I'm sorry. I was kind of being a dick. And the truth is, I was just really upset because originally this was all my idea. And by that, he means the women's initiative. And he's like, and it was my idea, but it was a bad idea. And Will's like, well, he's like, no, I got to come to terms with that. This is a really fucking dumb idea. He's like, I think you're being a little hard on yourself. Like, these ideas, they're really tough to come up with. He's like, no, these are, I mean, like this, I hate to beat myself up in front of you guys, but this is some of the dumbest fucking ideas consistently. Like, look at that sign. Like, I came up with that. You'll go, girl. He's like, I think you did a great job with that. Like, I just love the flip where this whole time Shane's talking and taking ownership of all of Will's ideas just so he can talk about how stupid it is, but by blaming himself. Like, I thought it was genius the way he flipped the conversation.
My favorite part of the episode.
And Will squirming so much here is just so fun to watch.
Well, yeah, because I feel like for the first time, these ideas are really like being put into perspective for him. And even he's kind of realizing how dumb they are.
Well, I think it's mainly just the idea that Shane found a way to publicly make fun of all of the ideas to the reporter in front of his face, but just with this like clever spin.
Yeah.
And when he keeps going on, he's like, like, I've been acting insane. And like, honestly, I think it's because I haven't had sex in like a decade. And Will's like, no, you had sex recently. Remember? You told everyone. He's like, no, I told everybody, but I was lying. And everyone I told knew I was lying. He's like, like the fact that he's like using this again to just like tell Will, like, hey, we know you lied about having sex recently.
Man, 10 years though? Jesus Christ. We just came off of a show. What show was it? Oh, Single Parents, where he went 5 years. That's a long time. And this guy just doubled it. So yeah, you're back in virgin territory, I think.
He's just the way he did, like, and now, and I know that they're all talking about me because of that blatant lie that I obviously told. And Will's like, so they all knew? It's like, oh yeah, they knew. And right as he's gonna go on with this, we hear, oh no, the WAPs. And then they run in and they're like, Ass Man Willie, let me tell you something. Like, we got some fantastic news. And he's like, you're never going to believe this. Remember that girl with the perfect tits we hired? She's also has an OnlyFans and she has a perfect ass too. And the reporter's like, what the fuck's going on? He's like, look.
Did anybody think here, I thought where this was going was going to be that the girl they hired was his girlfriend?
The reporters?
No, yeah.
I didn't take it that way, honestly.
Because they mentioned they hired this new girl or whatever, and this guy shows up, and then when she says, are you married? And he says, no, I have a girlfriend. I was like, oh, were they trying to like reiterate to us that he has a girlfriend?
That would have been a fun way to kind of tie that all in at the end.
Because I don't believe that he really had a girlfriend. I think he was just saying that.
Way too ugly to have a girlfriend.
Jesus Christ. Leave the guy alone.
What do you think this guy's going to listen to the fucking episode?
I'm not worried about him listening. I'm just saying you're like ripping on this dude.
I don't know if that hair was bad though. I don't know. I guess without that hair, if like he had normal hair or was bald, I could see,
he'd still be long, like a lanky, weird looking dude. He had the giant head on a skinny body.
What the fuck, guys? Jesus. Like, what did he do to you?
I like how this is so offensive to you guys for some reason. That this guy is kind of ugly and we're talking about it and you're fucking losing it.
I do love that the Gordo is just staying quiet through the whole thing, laughing at it, just not taking sides.
Because he will secretly agree.
But this whole talk about, like, you got to see this girl's tits and ass or whatever is enough. And now the reporter's like, that's it. Like, take my fucking car down. And because of like how off the rails this all went, you just see Shane like has like that child like happiness on his face. He looks like it's like Christmas morning. The reporter goes like, he almost had me. And Shane's like, I had you, pussy.
I didn't expect the pussy there. That got a laugh for sure.
Why is it not once said, though? No, they don't work here. They're the competition.
Right. It'd be easy to be like, these guys aren't part of our business. They work down the street. And they're not even competition. I think they're just neighbors.
They're still saying like, hey, Will, remember how you told us that you like nice asses and stuff? Because remember, this whole thing is like, we're trying to be respectful to women and make a comfortable environment for them. And now it's like, you're going to check out this girl's tits and ass. Like it completely contradicts the initiative that he's there to write about.
They call him Ass Man Will. It's like the stupidest but funniest nickname ever. Ass Man Willie.
And then usually I kind of like, sometimes I feel like resolves get rushed, and this felt a little rushed, but I think it worked in the context that it was being used, because it's, you know, the reporter saying like, I was going to let all this go, but like absolutely not now. And was like, come on, this was just supposed to be like a puff piece. He's like, no, he's like, absolutely not. Like, I don't have to do anything. Like, I'm done with this. You guys don't even advertise with us, so it's not like I have to kiss your ass or anything. He goes, wait, what would make you have to kiss our ass? And the reporter's like, what? And then you get that like cut forward to the phone call. And now you have Will on the phone with Dave again, because Dave keeps telling him like, don't spend any more fucking money. You've wasted all this money on those tires you bought. And he's like, hey, so I had to buy 4 months of ad space, and the price of the ad is dependent on the size, and we got some pretty big ads. But sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And I thought that this was like a great like last minute loophole. You know what I mean? Like the door was closing and they slid under it right in time. Like the reporter fucked it up himself by basically telling them the cheat code to get out of the situation.
Yeah, this ending didn't bother me, and I will say, when Dave just kind of sighs and hangs up the phone, I've never seen somebody bite into a lollipop more aggressively in my entire life. I was like, Jesus, bud.
Really? Have you met Jay?
I was just going to say, I have seen Jay do that, maybe more aggressively, yeah.
It's in my own notes. I was like, finally, someone else who does that.
Someone else who eats lollipops wrong?
I've always been like that with like lollipops and hard candies. Like I just chew them. Cough drops. But
cough drops is like the antithesis of what a cough drop is for, is to just bite into it and chew it.
It's like not the point at all.
It's not like a window green.
Obviously, like guys like you have been around me forever. So if I was to grab a Tootsie Pop and just instantly chew it, I'm not saying you guys don't think it's weird, but you've seen me do it before. Not that long, like last year, about a half year ago, when it was Ferg's birthday, we're all away. And at the place we're staying, it's us and a few of our other friends. Ferg's birthday, for those of you who want to buy him presents, is the day after Halloween. So when we're staying at the place, there's like discount Halloween candy at the Walgreens that was near. So we had some like candy just like in the Airbnb. So like I'm grabbing a Tootsie Pop and I just, chew it immediately. And the other friends are just looking at me with like horror in their face because they don't know what's going on or why I'm doing that. But to me, it's just how I am. I've never really thought about it. I just chew.
Yeah, but like, it comes on a stick.
So what? So does a corn dog. Do you lick it?
No, but like, what the fuck? But like, it's made to be savored.
You don't suck it, Jay? You don't like...
You don't eat corn dogs the long way?
Well, listen, if you have like a Tootsie Pop and you just lick the thing for a fucking hour, by the time you get to if you did it the right way and you just had a little fucking nuggie of Tootsie Roll in the middle, like that's not like a fun bite at the end.
What a gross candy to be inside a lollipop. Who thought?
Yeah, I was going to say, I never eat the Tootsie Roll Pop. I have the lollipop when it gets to the chocolate, I throw it away.
Tootsie Pops.
You guys don't like Tootsie Pops?
I don't like Tootsie
Rolls. I
Rolls.
just don't like the Tootsie Roll part.
What the fuck is wrong with you guys? Tootsie Pops are so good.
I like Blow Pops because you get delicious gum at the end.
That's worse. It's gross gum.
No, it tastes like the lolly, so it's like...
Wait,
it's
like,
still
do you think Tootsie Rolls are good? Like, they're not good.
You don't like Tootsie Rolls? Tootsie Rolls are
I don't.
great.
Listen, I'll eat them. But I've never been like, ooh, Tootsie Rolls.
I like Tootsie Rolls. I'm not a big sweet tooth guy. You guys know that.
That
but I've always liked
so
Tootsie
hard.
Rolls.
Jay liking Tootsie Rolls.
You guys, every time I like something that you guys don't like, you act like it's like controversial, like weird items that aren't mass produced and sold to millions of people. Like I'm going to like these like backwards.
It's not controversial. It's just that everything you like is super bland.
It's like, ooh, Jay likes Tootsie Rolls. Like it's some niche item. Like fucking millions of people eat Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah, but they make a ton of candy corn too, and I never heard anyone say I love candy corn.
Yeah, just because it's mass produced doesn't
And
mean
I'll tell
it's...
you, there's always a correlation. People who like candy corn also like circus peanuts.
Ugh.
Oh, those are gross.
I'm telling you, find someone who says they like one of them, ask them if they also like the other one.
What about Necco wafers? It's another useless candy.
I love the... Fuck you. Necco wafers are delicious. R.I.P.
I'm with you, Joe.
Thank you. Now, also, real quick, doing some investigation work here, Gordo. $550 we can get a lie detector test.
Let's do it.
It's only pretty much, it's $110 each.
I am not taking a lie detector test.
No. Only Gordo is taking one. We're not taking one.
That's when we find out Nick secretly loves Tootsie Rolls.
Whoa! And hates onions.
Turns out your favorite pizza topping is chicken.
We all take them and ask about the food conversations we've had. How much I love eggplant parm all of a sudden.
No, if we had Gordo strapped to a lie detector test, questions would be like, do you eat lasagna on Mondays? Have you actually watched all the episodes when you miss an episode? Like,
Have you ever watched Top Gun?
have you deliberately said things wrong for comedic value?
No.
In any event, though, we've exhausted the whole episode. I don't want it to go too long, so that was the conclusion. Was ending on that phone call with Tootsie Pop Chew at the end. But yeah, I mean, this show it's weird because like I said at the top of the episode, there's really no information. This show has been out for hours at this point, so it's a really quick reaction to it. I can say that like there's definitely maybe expectations watching a show like this because there was a bunch of hype around it, where it was like a countdown to when the show comes out and Shane Gillis just exploding as of, the last year or so. Again, like they gave it the second season already and it didn't even premiere at the time. So that says a lot about their confidence in at least, whether or not the show is even good, that Shane Gillis's drawing power is enough to offset it. And I would say to anyone who hasn't watched it within this circle, I would say, Joe, you haven't, and Gordo probably didn't see the actual special, but Beautiful Dogs is on Netflix. That's his hour-long special, and I think it is one of the funniest hours I've seen personally. That one I thought was just really clever, and it was put together really well, and I would absolutely recommend it. So, Beautiful Dogs by Shane Gillis. Check that out on Netflix.
I honestly didn't know any of his stand-up. I only knew the whole thing with him getting fired from SNL. I remember that happening in real time. And then I watched him host SNL, and I thought because like when a comedian hosts SNL, they just do stand-up. And I thought he was really funny, so I do want to check out the special.
I'll say, as far as that stuff goes, too, I think that was I remember the story when that happened, but obviously I didn't know who Shane Gillis was, and I never really followed up with it. So it wasn't until he started to get popular again, you know what I mean, on his own, that, oh, that's the guy from the story a couple years ago. And so it was kind of cool. And then to see him actually get to host SNL was a really cool full circle moment.
Yeah.
We've talked about this whole episode pretty in depth, and I don't want to take too much extra time. So unless anyone else has anything they want to add,
let's do this.
Then let's get into the green light or cancel. I'm going to go in the order I see you guys in. So Joe, starting with you.
Yeah, this is a green light. I think I had the least expectations going into this because I knew the least about it or the people. And I mentioned earlier, like, you're either in on this or you're not from the first minute, the way the humor's going to go. It's a raunchy workplace comedy. It's funny. Everybody in it makes you want to see them more. I was so stupidly enamored by the WAP's characters. This is a green light.
Ferg.
It's a cancel for me, but I want to stop and saying, like, I love Shane Gillis and his comedy. I loved every joke in this show. I just don't think they were all told well. I think it didn't feel like a TV show. It just felt like rapid joke after rapid joke, and it was trying too hard. We discussed a few of the plot holes. I liked each of these characters, too. I would probably give it another chance and watch a little more, because, like I said, I like the WAP. All the characters I liked got very little TV time. And I would have liked to have, seen the girl and the WAPs more. I would have liked to have seen the dad. I would have liked to have seen this other mechanic got an idea about what he was like all about. But you just got this twerpy guy with a vendetta against them for some reason that's never explained. So for that reason, I'm canceling it, despite the fact that I'm probably going to watch more. So cancel.
Nick.
Yeah, this is a green light. I do somewhat agree with Ferg, like I've stated, that it does try a little too hard to jam Shane in there a little much. And I think it's just because they sacrificed other characters to get Shane's, shit in, as you might say. But like, it's still a green light for me though, because there's a ton of upside potential with this show. It's just knowing the cast and knowing, like Ferg said, I want to see more, but in a good way. Like, I'm really excited to see what else these other characters are going to do. We'll see what happens. Like, nobody knows how this is going to go, right? Unless you binged it today, which is possible, I guess. But excited to keep watching this. I'm definitely actually going to keep watching this show, and we'll see what happens. But I think this is a pretty easy green light.
Gordo.
Yeah, I enjoyed this show. I thought what I was alluding to a little earlier, I actually thought Shane Gillis was a little muted, even though he got the most time. I feel like they're holding back a lot of the full wacky stuff he's going to be doing, and this is just like a preview of it. So I definitely want to see him go more off the rails. I definitely want to see more of the universe, the outside people who didn't get a bunch of screen time. And I'll probably watch it this weekend because it is a long weekend and I'm going to be sitting around at a lake relaxing. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Green light from me.
Yeah, so I'm with the majority here. I'm going to give it the green light. It's funny because there are definitely things that I felt differently watching this compared to you guys. I didn't think Shane Gillis was necessarily muted personally. I think when you have a scene of him on his knees giving a fake blowjob to his cousin, I feel like that's a pretty out there thing to have in episode 1 of a show. And I think if you have too many things like that, then it's too much for an episode. So you have to be really careful with where you toy the line. I would have liked to seen a little bit more from the rest of the cast, but I didn't feel like he was being jammed down the throat as like this main guy because it really was more focused on Will than it was Shane. But I do think where you have a cast of 4 people who work there, you could have given the other 2 a little bit more. But overall, I liked it. I definitely went in with pretty high expectations just because I'm such a fan of his. Did it exactly meet my expectations? I kind of know, to be honest with you. I thought it would be a little funnier, but I definitely enjoyed it. It got some legit laughs out of me. Definitely an easy watch. It was fun. And I'd like to see where it goes from there. I think it's a great cast and it's just a fun watch. So that's going to be 4 out of 5. Congratulations, Tires. You Live Honesty episode 2, but the entire season is available on Netflix as of today when we recorded it. Season 2 will be on the way. So already established. So I want to thank all of you guys who have been listening. Go to S1E1 Pod. Again, that's where you can find all the links where you can listen to us, rate, review, do all that stuff. Give us a follow on Instagram and X. Chat us up. We like knowing just how you found us, shows you want us to cover, all that. Buy a t-shirt. Even though we make pennies on them, it's still very cool to see you guys representing. It's honest to God really cool to see that, especially when you guys tag us in photos. So thank you again to everyone who's listened. We'll see you again next week with another new episode. Actually, next week, to say it, I usually like to keep everything self-contained, but next week starts our extravaganza where we do 4 weeks in a row of Tony Danza shows. Stay tuned for all that stuff. But until then, catch you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best. Low, oh!